Hello and welcome to another episode of Tommy's Trains. Today I've got a car that started out being two different cars and then somehow it evolved into basically the same thing, and that is the operating horse car. It could be the most fun, but it could be also the most quirky, and that's the operating horse car. It's 6-9224, and this one, I believe this one's a re-release of a post-war version, 1984. So, I've got the original warranty card for this. It was bought on 10/10/86. That's neat to have. The instructions on these, I'd say, there's a little bit to be desired. So, there's rubber feet under here, and there's also a couple of adjustments that you make whether you have O27 or O-track. So, if you are using O-gauge, you just change these little feet here. And what that does is it raises this whole thing up, because obviously the profile of O-gauge is taller than O27, so you need to adjust that. You also need an uncoupling and operating track, and I'll bring you over here and show you that. These right here have, I think, 4 wires on them, and you can extend that by unscrewing underneath, and you can just crimp some more wires on and make it longer if you needed to. But I wanted to show you that this regular uncoupling track with the little switch that comes with it is not going to work. So you either need the OTC lock-on number 90-00TC-001. So the regular lock-on's not going to work. You know, your regular power lock-on, that's not going to work for this. You need, basically, it's like the milk car. So there's an extra contact that runs down like another rail inside. And like I said, I'll bring you over and show you that. But I think this car is quirky for a couple of reasons. Number one, this whole thing vibrates here, and that's what moves the horses through. But what I've run into trouble with, and I'll show you, and I'll probably see how these doors jam. So I can get them unjammed, and they work for one time, and then they jam again. So you think if you're going to use this car, what I probably would do, and it's always this side here, is I probably would fix something so that they don't close back up. You can see, no matter what I do, this one's always going to have a little bit of a lean to it, and it gets inside and then it doesn't come back out. So it's back in, and it may come down, it may not. This one is the operating cattle car and stockyard. So initially, I'll put up a picture of what the initial stockyard looked like, and I don't know, I've never seen this version older other than as the horse car. So those of you who've collected Lionels for a long time, you may know more about this than me and can explain. So here's the horse version, and unfortunately the horse car that I just couldn't get the doors to work right. They kept jamming. So here's the horse car loading ramp, and so what happens is this thing vibrates. The horses run around and then they vibrate into the car, and depending on how, if you have the door closed or open, the horses will either load or they'll just go through and come out the other side. So there's a couple of different pieces of electronics here we need to discuss, and I'll show you those. But this right here was the original horse car one, I believe, from what I can tell from what I've been able to research. It looked like this, and the cattle car one had like a maze of stockyards like you would actually see when you looked at a stockyard with the loading chutes and all those things. Actually, there was a lady named Temple Grandin, and she kind of designed those loading chutes so they were enclosed. That way the cows couldn't really see each other. And the other one was made in the United States. And this one here is also made in the United States in 1996. So lucky for me, they're both made right here in the States. This is brand new in the box. So the cattle car set. We've got our Railroader Club and our service locations for 1998. I'd be surprised if many of those are left. And this box here is our car. Anyway, the other car says Kentucky Downs on it, and don't ask me where it is because I don't remember right this second. But basically it looks just like this. This one is Chicago and Northwestern. So when I honestly think about cattle cars, my first cattle car that I got was an HO scale AHM, Chicago and Northwestern. So I think about Chicago, I think about beef packing plants. So that's what I would expect. So this right here, we've got some bread ties on here on these trucks. I'll take that off. You can find these brand new in the box if you look. And sometimes on bidding sites you can find them cheap, sometimes not. I usually sort my eBay stuff by price lowest to highest, and then I look at like feedback from the seller and stuff like that. But you can go to train shows and get these things too. So on this side here is going to be the off side, and when you open this door it just moves this chute in here, and what that does is there's like a little spring piece of metal that acts as a gate. So when the animals are loading into this chute, they'll either hit the gate or they'll go right through. So we have our Christmas train out today because we're 3 days from Christmas as I'm doing this. So here's our accessory packet. Right here and grab the instructions. These are, again, these sheets are a little bit pre-desired, but they're not the worst I've ever seen. So when you install this right here, there's two ways that this will go. One, it will have this higher, like so for O gauge, and then retracted like this for O27. And to me, the most painful thing about this is getting the vibration set right, because you have to take it off and adjust the set screw here, and that's gonna determine the amount of vibration. So the animals will either move through the chutes or they'll just vibrate and go all over the place. So brand new sealed accessory bag. What this one does is, instead of like your accessory activator where you would just push it once and it's a momentary, this right here will actually lock the operation until you turn the switch off. So we got these little rubber cows, they all look like bulls. None of them look like steers. They're giant. So there's probably 7 of those. Now this right here is a Lionel OTC lock-on, and this kind of simulates the accessory activator that would use for like the icing station or the milk platform. But the problem with using that part, that accessory, is that these feet right here interact with it, and it ends up lifting the platform and puts it at an angle so they don't load right. So that's why they have this accessory Lionel OTC lock-on, and this is different than the CTC lock-on, because the CTC lock-on is what provides power, and it kind of does the same thing but in reverse. Growing up on a farm, people will often misunderstand when you say cows. So generally people will say cows meaning cattle, but also a cow is a female cow or female bovine who's had a baby. Otherwise it's a heifer who has not had babies yet. So then you get the bull, and then steer are fixed bulls, and etc. Generally your beef animals are steers because the beef tastes better if they're fixed. I've actually got some videos on fixing bulls here on the farm. Look at these, they're kind of shaped like a Rolo or the head of a blunt bullet. So for O scale, you're going to put the foot like this so it raises the platform. For O27, you're going to go the reverse, and you're going to put the pointed side down and then slide it. So you have the feet positioned. This puts it in the low position. The bar needs to be low for O27 track. So I'm going to go through all this kind of quickly at a distance, and then I'll bring you in, and after I've run it and put it together, I'll bring you over here and I'll show you intricately how it all goes. First glance, these two switches will look exactly the same, but this one is the one for the accessory activator, and this is the one for the cattle stockyard here. And what this does is this provides power constantly, whereas this is a momentary power activator. I said that kind of one of the most tedious things is just trying to get this screw set right. And then this goes underneath the tracks, and this needs to go between 2 straights. So basically you get 2 straights, and then you want to center this so that when you set it in, this hook here, and like I said, this will go down or up depending on what kind of track you have, but we have O27, so it's going to be like this, and then the outer rail is going to go through here. So you have that. And we have some power feed here coming off from the back. We have these two wires here coming off the terminals, the accessory terminals of our power supply. So we're going to shut that off while we're messing around with this. The contactor, we're going to put it so that the terminals are facing away from the paddock or the corral. So we're going to take one of these wires here, we're going to hook it to this right here. I'm just going to slide that in. Best luck with all of these things if I put one of these little fork terminals on. And interestingly, this wire is solid conductor and it's tinned. Tinned means it has some solder on it. The solid conductor works good for most of the stuff. If you have the braided wire, you have to kind of twist it together. However, the braided wire usually reacts to being crimped better, so it could go either way. But if you're just going to take your power from here and keep sticking it into these little CTCs or OTCs, the solid conductor wire is better. And then we have another wire that goes out of here and into the switch. So here's our switch. Remember, we want this one. So let's take one of these jumpers I made here with the connectors on it, and we're going to slide that in. But we need to go in and out. So we need actually two jumpers. So we're going to loosen up this screw. Just be careful of these screws because they go flying. There's not a stop in it like there is on, like a electrical socket or something where you can only back it out just so far without really putting pressure on it. These ones will come right out. So be super careful. You don't lose that screw because otherwise you'll spend the rest of your life trying to find it. There's a little washer in there, and if you go under the washer with your fork, it'll be better. Is the switch with two leads coming out of it, and we're going to take one and hook it to here, and one is going to go on the OTC on this. The other side of the switch goes to your accessory on your transformer. So again, we're going to loosen this up. Now if I was going to make a permanent layout, I would do this so much neater. But this is just a temporary install to show you how it works. So we're combat comm today. In the military I was fixed comm, so I was putting in ILSs and radar and radios and everything else, as opposed to combat comm where they just run wires all over the place because it's more important to make it work quickly than it is to make it neat. So I had to do both, but obviously fixed comm is a lot neater and looks more finished and it's more permanent. Look at these two sets here. You can see this one was the one that came with the horse corral. This is the one that came with the cattle, and they are exactly the same other than this one has like a forest green and this one has like a Kelly green or something. So pretty much the same. And here's the horses. So you could take the cows out and put the horses in if you wanted to. And then these are just extra like contactors and stuff. So we'll put this aside for now. I'll bring you over and we'll show you that too. But anyway, it's the same idea. We've got the two wheels, and then you got like another piece of metal in here, and that's what will hit this contactor or the lock on. And so when it gets power from the track to do that, it's gonna open the doors, and then you push the button and it'll load cattle. So you kind of got to get it loaded just right, parked just right in order for it to work. So you have to do a couple things. You have to line these doors up and also make sure the wheels are over the OTC. All right, I found my other car. It's a Louisville Railway Express Agency, and for whatever reason that one had issues. So here's our Chicago and Northwestern, and the way this is going to work is when I turn track power on, the doors will come down, and then when I activate the switch, the cattle will go up in. So if the doors are closed on this, the cattle will go right through and come out the other side. If I leave this door open, then they will stay in the car. And there's a little device in there, and I'll bring you over and show that to you in a minute too. So you hear that hum? You kind of have to give this thing a little. So they struggle on the ramp a little bit. You could probably adjust it, I'm not sure, but it's kind of difficult. You can't force them because they'll get jammed. So I'll have to take this apart again for like 5 times. They just don't seem to want to go through the right way. I don't know what I think anymore. I think I probably would regrettably tell you not to buy one of these, because that's 2. The first one didn't even work. The second one, while it works, it doesn't, what I would say, work well. You know, there's these little tiny pins in here that hold this track on. Yeah. So I think it's a neat accessory if you can get it like dirt cheap. Buy one that doesn't work. I mean, and just use it for an accessory to sit on the side. And you know, it's kind of cool. See the animals here vibrating around. Change the adjustment on that, but I'll bring you over here. I'll show you how the wiring. And maybe you've got one that works well, but I don't know, I got 2 for 2. This one was brand new in the box. I mean, I know it's been sitting for 30 years and you know, whatever, but I don't know. I probably would tell you not to go out and spend much money on this. I mean, the car is neat. You know, the graphics are good. Other than the door falling off. You could fix that. Just make it non-functional. But as far as performance-wise, I really think that's a hard no. So there's a lot of other Lionel accessories to buy, and I would not recommend that you buy this. And I think it's neat. I think in theory it's neat, but in practice. So the horse car is the 6-9224 operating horse car. Let's see, 6-19828 requires remote control track section sold separately. Doesn't really, it just needs that seat OTC. So I don't know. Come on over and take a look at it and tell me what you think. All right, so the way this is rigged up is I have 2 wires coming off the back of your accessory right here. One's going to go straight to the back. The other one is going to go to one end of the switch. On the other side of the switch, you've got 2 wires that go out. One will go on the right side of this, and the other one will go to number 1 on your OTC. So on this car, it's just like the ice car or the milk car. There's this, you see it's got corrosion on it. Maybe that, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, that right there is a little plunger on it. It goes up, it makes contact, energizes the little motor in there, which the way this works is, you see that? So what it does is it pulls that up and then it goes back down. There should be a spring in there, but I don't see it. Here's the other one that doesn't work. So look on that shaft right there, no spring. And then look on this other one. See the spring? Got a coil spring that goes over the whole thing. And it's really simple. Problem is there's just one bar that goes across, and then these are kind of chintzy, and they jam. This one here, I put a piece of wire in there to stop it from jamming. It's a heavy car, you know, it's like the milk car. There's not a lot of detail on the trucks, but they're metal operating couplers, and I just wish it worked better. If you take this top all off and run an open car, it'll work, and I think I'll put that back up there and show you what this looks like with it torn apart. And it's a strange thing, but it seemed to work better without the top on, so stand by. So I don't know. Sorry to disappoint. I'll talk to you next time on Tommy's Trains. Thanks for watching.